The movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose sent chills down our spines, its horrifying depiction of demonic possession leaving an indelible mark on our minds. This cinematic tale drew inspiration from the real-life tragedy of Anneliese Michel, a young German woman who found herself ensnared in the clutches of a terrifying and inexplicable ordeal. Her story, a chilling tapestry woven with threads of faith, mental illness, and the unknown, continues to captivate and haunt us even today. Anneliese's case, shrouded in controversy, ignited fierce debates about the existence of demonic forces and the efficacy of exorcism as a remedy for mental illness. It serves as a stark reminder of the profound power of the human mind and the often blurred lines between faith and reason. This essay delves into the life and struggles of Anneliese Michel, exploring the complexities of dissociative identity disorder, DID, and shedding light on the societal perceptions surrounding this often misunderstood condition. Join me as we journey into the heart of this enigmatic case, seeking to unravel the mysteries and complexities that continue to surround Anneliese Michel's tragic fate. Anneliese Michel, born in the picturesque Bavarian region of Germany in 1952, led a seemingly ordinary life, her days filled with the simple joys of childhood. She played in the lush meadows, attended school with her friends, and enjoyed the warmth of her close-knit family. However, the tranquility of her early years was shattered at the tender age of 16 when she experienced her first epileptic seizure, a harbinger of the turbulent years that lay ahead. This sudden and frightening event marked the beginning of a long and arduous journey through a maze of medical consultations and hospital visits. This marked the beginning of Anneliese's descent into a world of darkness and despair, her life irrevocably altered by the encroaching shadows of mental illness. The once bright and cheerful girl found herself grappling with an overwhelming sense of fear and confusion. Initially diagnosed with epilepsy and prescribed medication to manage her seizures, Anneliese's condition took a turn for the worse as she grew older. Despite the doctor's best efforts, the medications seemed to have little effect, and her health continued to deteriorate. She began exhibiting increasingly erratic and disturbing behavior, her actions defying rational explanation. Her family watched helplessly as Anneliese's once predictable and stable demeanor gave way to unpredictable outbursts and strange episodes. The once vibrant young woman withdrew into herself, her spirit seemingly crushed under the weight of an unseen tormentor. She spent more and more time in isolation, her laughter and joy replaced by silence and sorrow. Anneliese's family, deeply religious and devoted Catholics, watched in horror as their beloved daughter slipped further into the abyss of mental illness. Their faith, once a source of comfort, now became a desperate lifeline as they sought answers and solace. Her symptoms, as baffling as they were terrifying, included hallucinations, convulsions, and an aversion to religious artifacts. These episodes were not only physically exhausting, but also deeply distressing for Anneliese and her family, leading her loved ones to believe that she was ensnared in the clutches of something sinister and demonic. The fear and uncertainty grew, casting a dark shadow over their once peaceful lives. The family, desperate to alleviate their daughter's suffering and clinging to their faith for solace, sought help from the church, believing that Anneliese's affliction was spiritual in nature. They hoped that divine intervention might succeed where medical science had failed. This decision would set in motion a chain of events with devastating and irreversible consequences for the troubled young woman. The path they chose, driven by love and desperation, would lead to a tragic and heart-wrenching conclusion. As Anneliese's condition deteriorated, her behavior became increasingly erratic and disturbing, leaving her loved ones in a state of constant worry and confusion. A stark contrast to her previously devout and gentle nature, which had always been a source of comfort and inspiration to those around her. She began experiencing auditory hallucinations, hearing voices that whispered insidious suggestions, urging her towards self-destruction. These voices were relentless, never giving her a moment of peace. These voices, she claimed, belonged to demonic entities that had taken up residence within her tormented soul. Entities that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. Anneliese's once unwavering faith seemed to crumble before her family's eyes, leaving them feeling helpless and desperate for answers. She developed an intense aversion to religious objects, recoiling in fear from crucifixes and holy water, symbols that had once brought her comfort and solace. This aversion only deepened the family's concern. Her once fervent prayers were replaced by guttural growls and blasphemous utterances, her words sending chills down the spines of those who witnessed her torment. It was as if she had become a different person entirely. Her physical health deteriorated in tandem with her mental state, leaving her a shadow of her former self. Anneliese refused food and water, believing herself to be possessed by demons who forbade her from partaking in such sustenance. This self-imposed starvation further weakened her already fragile body. She would lash out violently, her once gentle touch replaced by an alarming strength that belied her frail frame. Her family struggled to understand the source of this newfound aggression. Her emaciated body, covered in bruises and bite marks, bore testament to the violence of her unseen tormentors. Each mark told a story of her ongoing battle. Anneliese's family, their hearts breaking at the sight of their daughter's suffering, clung desperately to the belief that she was possessed, their faith offering the only explanation they could comprehend for her terrifying transformation. They prayed for a miracle, hoping for a return to normalcy. This conviction would ultimately lead them down a path of desperate measures, seeking solace in the ancient and controversial ritual of exorcism, a last resort in their quest to save Anneliese from her torment. In 1975, after years of witnessing Anneliese's harrowing decline and convinced that conventional medicine had failed their daughter, the Michel family turned to the Catholic Church for help. They were desperate, seeking any form of intervention that could save Anneliese from her torment. They believed that Anneliese's increasingly disturbing behavior was not a manifestation of mental illness, but rather the work of malevolent demonic forces that had taken possession of her soul. The family's conviction grew stronger with each passing day as they witnessed her suffering intensify. Their pleas for help were answered by Father Arnold Renz and Pastor Ernst Alt, two priests who shared the family's belief in Anneliese's demonic possession. They were determined to do everything in their power to save her. With the blessing of the local bishop, they embarked on a series of intense exorcism rituals, hoping to free Anneliese from the clutches of the evil entities they believed tormented her. The rituals were elaborate and grueling, involving prayers, chants, and sacred rites. Over the course of 10 grueling months, Anneliese endured 67 exorcism sessions, each one a harrowing ordeal that pushed her fragile body and mind to their absolute limits. The sessions were physically and emotionally exhausting, leaving her drained and weakened. The priests, armed with prayers, crucifixes, and holy water, engaged in a spiritual battle against the demons they believed resided within her. They were relentless, believing that their faith and determination would ultimately prevail. Anneliese's tortured cries and pleas for mercy echoed through the halls of the Michel home as the priests commanded the demonic forces to relinquish their hold on her. The atmosphere was charged with tension and fear as the family watched helplessly. She writhed in agony, her emaciated body contorting into unnatural positions as she recounted terrifying visions of hellfire and damnation. Her descriptions were vivid and horrifying, painting a picture of unimaginable suffering. The exorcisms, far from providing relief, seemed to exacerbate Anneliese's suffering. Each session left her more broken than before, both physically and mentally. She grew weaker with each passing day, her body ravaged by malnutrition, dehydration, and the physical toll of the rituals. Her once vibrant spirit was diminished, replaced by a shell of her former self. Despite her deteriorating condition, the exorcisms continued, fueled by the unwavering belief that Anneliese was locked in a life-or-death struggle against the forces of darkness. The priests and her family clung to the hope that she would be saved. On July 1st, 1976, Anneliese Michel, her body and mind broken by months of relentless exorcisms, succumbed to her torment. Her death marked the tragic end of a long and painful journey. She died at the age of 23, weighing a mere 68 pounds, her emaciated body bearing witness to the horrific ordeal she had endured. The story of Anneliese Michel remains a haunting reminder of the devastating consequences of misguided beliefs and the human cost of spiritual warfare.
हमारे दिमाग का जटिल जाल एक रहस्य की तरह है जिसे समझना आसान नहीं है। ये विचारों, भावनाओं और अनुभवों का एक अनंत समुद्र है। अक्सर हम खुद को इस जाल में खोया हुआ पाते हैं, सही दिशा खोजने की कोशिश करते हुए। लेकिन जब हम इस जटिलता को समझने लगते हैं तो हमें अपने ही अस्तित्व का एक नया आयाम मिलता है। यह एक यात्रा है जो हमें हमारे भीतर की गहराइयों तक ले जाती है, और इस यात्रा में हर कदम हमें कुछ नया सिखाता है, हमें और अधिक समझदार बनाता है। जब एक व्यक्ति गहरे आघात से गुजरता है तो उसका व्यक्तित्व कई भागों में बंट सकता है। यह एक रक्षा तंत्र है जिससे व्यक्ति खुद को दर्द से बचाने की कोशिश करता है। इस प्रक्रिया में अलग अलग व्यक्तित्व उभर सकते हैं जो विभिन्न परिस्थितियों में प्रकट होते हैं। डिसोसिएटिव आइडेंटिटी डिसऑर्डर के लक्षणों में स्मृति की कमी, समय का खो जाना और अलग अलग व्यक्तित्वों का अनुभव शामिल है। इन लक्षणों को समझना और पहचानना बेहद महत्वपूर्ण है। सही निदान के लिए एक योग्य मानसिक स्वास्थ्य पेशेवर की मदद लेना आवश्यक है। डीआईडी का इलाज एक जटिल प्रक्रिया है जिसमें दीर्घकालिक थेरेपी शामिल होती है। थेरेपिस्ट का उद्देश्य व्यक्ति को उनके विभिन्न व्यक्तित्वों को एकीकृत करने में मदद करना है। इसके अलावा आघात से उबरने और स्वस्थ जीवन जीने की दिशा में कदम उठाना भी थेरेपी का हिस्सा है। हमें डीआईडी से पीड़ित व्यक्तियों के प्रति करुणा और समझ दिखानी चाहिए। यह एक वास्तविक और गंभीर मानसिक स्वास्थ्य स्थिति है और इससे जूझ रहे लोगों को हमारे समर्थन की आवश्यकता है। उनकी कहानियों को सुनें, उन्हें समझें और उनके साथ खड़े रहें।